Hi, I'm Stephen Bischoff. I'm here with the Ohio Young Birders Club, and today I will be interviewing Chris Tonra. He is a professor at OSU. Where did you go to college and what did you study?
I did my undergrad at the State University of New York in Albany, and I actually did my undergrad. I started out as a bio major, and then I switched to anthropology. But I didn't really start doing anything really bird related until after a few years. When I was about 25, I went back to school at Humboldt State University and took some more undergrad classes, and then started in grad school there.
So, through all that, what would you say got you started in doing field research?
I think just a real excitement and passion about being in the field. And then once I started volunteering for a research project, and I think it was really once I started doing nest searching was when I got really excited about it, because that was when I realized for a living you could actually spend time just watching birds. And that really kind of jumped off from there, and that was the point where I really knew this was what I wanted to do for good.
What classes do you teach and what role do you play at Ohio State?
So I'm an assistant professor, which means in the early stages of being a faculty member. And I was specifically hired because they were looking for somebody that studied avian ecology and management and conservation. So it was a perfect fit for me because they wanted somebody who loved working with birds, and that's what I love doing. And so my role is kind of to do research on birds, and then one of the main classes they wanted me to teach was our avian biology and management class. So that's actually what I'm teaching now. I teach during the spring.
And I know you do a lot of work with your grad students. What do you think the most rewarding part about working with them is?
Oh, well, I think, I sort of have just started as a graduate advisor. I mean, they're all completing or starting their first field seasons right now. But I think the most rewarding thing is just seeing them grow as scientists. So they've all come in, really skilled as biologists. They've all come in with a really good amount of experience working in the field, collecting data, managing data, things like that. But starting to see them kind of synthesize everything to where they now have an opportunity where they have an idea and they want to see that idea through and design a project themselves and see it through from the beginning till completion.
What would you consider your spark bird to be?
It would definitely be red-bellied woodpecker. So I got really, when I was, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13 years old, I got really interested in just the birds at the feeder in the backyard. And for some reason, they were one I never really saw come to the feeder, and I had seen downy woodpeckers and chickadees and things like that. And I had a very basic Audubon field guide. And then outside my bedroom window one day in one of our red oaks, I saw this big, what was a really big to me, woodpecker excavating a cavity. And I had never found a nest, on our property or anything other than the house sparrows and the shutters. So I got really excited about it and was out there trying to identify the bird, taking pictures and everything. And then just to be able to watch, and then, saw the male at first, and then, in a few days saw the female come in and check out the cavity. And it was really the first time I ever, really watched behavior like that at a nest. And just a bird I was not familiar with at all. All of a sudden there was a nest right outside my window. So that just really, launched me off from there and to get going further and further, into birding and starting to bird away from the house more. And that was really launched by having that bird excavating that cavity one day out my window. My brothers and sisters had no idea what I was so excited about.
What do you think the biggest threat to the environment for my generation will be?
The biggest threat to the environment? I think people not caring about nature. I think there's certainly a lot of threats. You can talk about habitat loss, you can talk about climate change, you can talk about diseases, whatever it is. But I think the biggest threat is that people just won't care. We rely on people giving a darn about nature. And the more and more people spend time looking at screens and staying inside and watching TV instead of going to wildlife refuges and going to national parks and going to local parks. The less that happens as generations go on, the less people are going to care about, legislation that keeps those things going and going to the parks to contribute to the fees that keep them going and supporting the community around those parks, the people that run restaurants and gas stations and, gift shops and whatnot that make a living off of those parks being there in those public lands. So I think that's the biggest thing, is keeping people connected to nature and getting them outside.
And how would you suggest that my generation gets pushed into getting involved with nature?
Oh, well, I hope it doesn't take pushing. But I think, the more people value science education and the more science education values getting people out of the classroom. So, just at the grade school level, getting students outside, and that it doesn't have to be to a national park, like just getting into a woodlot and finding salamanders is going to get kids excited. But I think just making those connections. And I don't want to say, I think there's important roles for media too, supporting programs like nature. And, what really got me interested in wildlife early on was watching Wild America with Marty Stauffer. I used to watch that show all the time when it was on. And that's how I got excited about wildlife, and that's what got me outside. And when all of a sudden you see that on TV and then you're out there and you see a paragraph, that connection, it makes it even more exciting. So, I think having things in the media is real important to make those connections, but really what's going to be lasting is getting kids outside at a young age and getting them connected to wildlife. So taking them places where they can see wildlife. I mean, it's even better. I think banding it's a great role that bird banding can play, is seeing a bird in the hand. I mean, people of all ages can get excited about that. So I think especially with kids, it does a lot. And so banding stations that do programs for kids, like up at Black Swamp Bird Observatory and other places, I think it's really, really important.
Thank you, Dr. Tonra, for your time tonight. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Great, my pleasure.